Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving right into day 72 of the US-Israel-Iran war. You know, it's actually fascinating how the epicenter of a conflict generates these massive waves, both literal and metaphorical, that end up washing over the entire globe. We're talking about impacts on everything from high-level international security right down to the everyday products we consume. Today, we're tracing those waves to see exactly how central diplomacy creates ripples across the whole world.
I mean, think about it. Nuclear negotiations, the World Cup, and a Diet Coke shortage. What could those three things possibly have in common? It almost sounds like the setup to a weird joke, right? But what's truly fascinating is how perfectly these seemingly random elements capture the unexpected real-world consequences of modern conflict. They are all deeply, intricately interconnected through the geopolitics we are about to explore.
So, here's how we're breaking it down today. We'll start right at the epicenter, move out to the tensions in the Strait, look at the Lebanon front, touch on those World Cup visa demands, and wrap up with India's crazy Diet Coke shortage. Let's get into it.
All right, part one, the epicenter, and the search for this highly elusive peace plan.
So look, while we don't have the official details made public just yet, Pakistani mediators have actually just passed Iran's response to the latest U.S. peace proposal over to Washington. The whole thing basically hinges on a two-phase framework. Reports suggest it breaks things down pretty logically. Phase 1, stop the hostilities in the Strait of Hormuz and lift the port blockades. Basically, put out the immediate volatile fires first. Only after that's established would they move to Phase 2, a 30-day window to tackle the really heavy long-term stuff like Iran's nuclear program and those massive economic sanctions.
But here is where we hit a massive diplomatic wall. The Iranian president put it incredibly bluntly, making it clear they'll never bow to the enemy, and that talking absolutely doesn't mean surrendering. It illustrates a huge impasse. President Trump is pushing hard for a quick deal, literally threatening to go back to bombing if his terms aren't met, but Iran's leadership clearly feels they hold the cards here. They want concrete guarantees against future attacks, and they are signaling that they absolutely won't make sweeping immediate concessions without them.
Now let's flip over to the Israeli perspective, because this really cranks up the tension. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu went on 60 Minutes recently and drew a hard line in the sand. He insists that Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium absolutely must be taken out before this war can truly end. And he means physically removed. Now, he kind of dodged the specific question of whether that means using military force, but he made it crystal clear that physically getting rid of that uranium is a non-negotiable sticking point for Israel. Moving right along to part 2. Let's look at the tensions in the Strait and how everyone is navigating this maritime blockade. You know, the Strait of Hormuz is just this incredibly critical global choke point, and right now, it is highly volatile. High-level political disagreements are turning into actual real-world military clashes out on the water. Just look at these recent incidents. You've got a Qatari liquid gas ship crossing into Pakistan, apparently with Iran's prior approval. But at the exact same time, a commercial bulk carrier gets attacked in Qatari waters, which Iran claims was a U.S.-flagged ship, by the way. Throw in an unidentified aircraft striking a South Korean cargo ship, plus U.S. military footage showing strikes on 2 Iranian tankers right before they hit port. Yeah, it's an incredibly complex and dangerous environment out there right now.
And all of this is causing immense, very real anxiety for the neighboring countries. Gulf nations like the UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait, they are literally waking up at dawn to intercept drones just to protect their own sovereignty. They are desperately trying to stay out of the crossfire. Meanwhile, Qatar's prime minister has been super critical of Iran, basically accusing Tehran of using the Strait as a deliberate high-stakes pressure tactic for their ongoing negotiations. It just deepens the whole regional crisis.
All right, on to part 3, the Lebanon front, where we're seeing a ceasefire in name only.
So remember that ceasefire agreed to back on April 16th? Well, it has completely failed to actually stop the violence. The reality on the ground is just devastating. Over the weekend alone, intense Israeli strikes hit over 40 Hezbollah sites, targeting infrastructure, headquarters, and weapons depots. And tragically, the Lebanese Health Ministry is reporting casualties among displaced civilians, including kids, as well as paramedics from a civil defense group. At the same time, Hezbollah is still actively firing rockets and drones at Israeli troops. The conflict is still very much raging.
When you break down the demands from both sides, you immediately see why peace is so elusive here. Israel's primary demand is the absolute full disarmament of Hezbollah, plus guaranteed safety for their troops. On the flip side, Lebanon and Hezbollah, they want occupying Israeli troops totally withdrawn from southern Lebanon and an immediate halt to all strikes. It's a complete, fundamental stalemate. And the kicker? Iran insists this exact stalemate has to be resolved as an integrated part of any overarching grand bargain with the U.S.
Let's zoom out a bit for part 4. World Cup visa demands and the total blurring of sports and geopolitics.
Okay, so the upcoming World Cup is being hosted across the US, Canada, and Mexico, right? Well, it's hitting some massive logistical roadblocks thanks directly to this conflict. FIFA and the organizers are staring down a really unusual list of demands from the Iranian Football Federation that stretch way beyond standard sporting protocols. Iran wants visas for all their personnel, and that specifically includes people who have done military service with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC. They're also demanding guarantees that their anthem and flag will be respected, permission for their fans to bring alternative flags into stadiums, specifically out in LA, and, get this, a total ban on journalists asking any political questions at press conferences.
Now you might be wondering, why is this such a big deal for organizers? Well, it goes way over FIFA's head. The IRGC is officially listed as a terrorist organization by both the United States and Canada. So granting visas to military personnel under those kinds of heavy sanctions, that's not just FIFA policy, that creates massive immigration and border friction. To actually make that happen, you need special exemptions coming directly from the discretion of the US President and the Secretary of State.
Finally, part 5. We're heading to India to look at this Diet Coke craze and a wild global supply chain effect.
Okay, I promised you a weird economic oddity at the outer ripple of this conflict, and here it is. $16. Believe it or not, that is the literal entry fee some bars and restaurants in India are charging right now just to get into exclusive Diet Coke parties.
So how exactly did we get here? Well, in India, Diet Coke is exclusively sold in aluminum cans. And because of those shipping delays in the volatile Strait of Hormuz that we talked about earlier, there is now a severe shortage of those exact cans. It is wild. It's actually sparked this massive social media frenzy. Gen Z is out there actively hoarding the few remaining cans as keepsakes and aesthetic memorabilia. People are literally getting together to bedazzle these cans with rhinestones. They're painting vintage pop art on them, making custom t-shirts. Basically, a maritime blockade thousands of miles away has turned a simple beverage shortage into a rare, bedazzled cultural phenomenon.
So, from stalled nuclear diplomacy and dawn drone interceptions, to complex visa battles over an international football tournament, all the way down to the skyrocketing price of a soda on the other side of the planet, it really makes you wonder, in a fully globalized world, where does the cost of war truly end?